Last two things, arbitrary arguments. Sometimes we do not know how many arguments we need to pass. So for example, you are in a restaurant, you are implementing a software for the restaurant, which is taking an input from a user, like they are supposed to be, I mean, buying a sandwich, okay, and they have to create their own sandwich. So the mandatory ingredients might be a bread, of course, and another argument, another input that they must need to specify the type of meat. Okay, so these are some essential ingredients that a user must select always. So these are the arguments, or these are the inputs that are the mandatory inputs. Now we can consider adding some additional toppings on it, like olives, tomatoes, lettuce, and some sauces. So these are arbitrary number of arguments that we do not know how many arguments that a function will be taking, okay, in order to construct or in order to create a customized sandwich. Okay, so here is an example. The definition: make sandwich. We must pass the bread input. You must select what type of bread, you must provide what type of meat, and then some additional arguments. So when we do not know the number of arguments that a function will be taking, we can use this steric args as an arguments parameter. Okay, so here you can see this is what the function definition, whatever the code is inside it. We are calling this function make underscore sandwich. Sourdough, turkey. The sourdough is a type of bread. Turkey is a type of meat, and we are passing mayo as an additional sauce. So next time another user might be making a sandwich, so they are passing mayo, tomato, and lettuce as an additional ingredients or additional toppings. So here in this is a very good example where we do not know the number of arguments that we will be passing. So in such a scenario where we do not know what would be the possible number of arguments, you can use this keywords steric args, and you can pass any number of arguments after these mandatory, the required arguments. Okay. So when you run this code, it will just execute this piece of code and print this statement. I'm not going to explain this. It's a simple thing. If for, we will be talking about later today. Another type of arguments, arbitrary arguments, called the keyworded arguments. Again, keyworded arguments based on the data structure type called dictionary, in which we do not only pass the values, just like in the previous case, we pass additional like tomato, lettuce, and some sauce. Here we pass not only the values but also their names associated to it. Okay, so this is again an example here. Sauce 1, mustard, veggie 1, tomato, veggie 2, lettuce. So we pass the keyworded arguments. Again, we haven't studied dictionaries yet, so that is why it may not make much sense to you now. But since we are discussing arbitrary arguments, so there is another way of passing the arguments which has a keys associated to it, which has a name associated to it. Just like age equals, let's say, 15. So we, instead of passing only 15, what we are trying to pass is not only the value 15, but also its associated key. Age is also being passed here. Okay. So this is it until functions. Let's take a break, a small break, and then I'll go through the control flow.